Yes, politicians are beginning to, and of course Nigerians too, are beginning to look towards 2023. A whole lot of permutations here and there. Just now we told you about PDP getting set to install Ayu as their chairman because they want the presidential candidate to come from the north. APC will be having their state congresses this Saturday here and there. But of course, there are still some issues with the talking about the rules of the election. Recently, we had electoral reforms too. We have some issues that have been raised at the National Assembly. Two of these issues, talking about the electoral reforms, we want to look at the issue of electronic transmission and, of course, the issue of parties to now undergo direct primaries and some other issues. So today, we want to look at, that's the topic, electoral reforms, possible impact on 2023. And we have in-house a writer, a policy strategist, and public affairs pundit, Bolaji Adeniji. Bolaji, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. It feels good to be here again. God bless Nigeria.
Well, exactly. Just like the Americans will say, God bless America.
God bless our country.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
Actually, every time we wake up, that's what we should say, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now looking at 2023 in view, obviously, electoral reforms are very, very important, you know, as people prepare to go to the polls. But at what point is it evidently glaring that a country needs electoral reform?
Well, in every democracy, the masterminders of that system and the guardians of the process must constantly seek to try to enhance the value of their electoral process, because what gives validity to your democracy as a country is how clean, meritorious, okay, your electoral process is. Because when the electoral process is clean, then it produces leaders who were marked by the people's choice. And when you are marked by the people's choice, then more often than not, you are precluded to go and do governance well. So I think it's very important to state the fact that the electoral process of any country is very important to its democracy. And if you look at how we have evolved over the years, we see that we are not there yet. We have improved significantly. We have erased the era of ballot snatching, guns and all that at the polling units.
But we have reduced. I won't erased.
Largely,
it still happens.
Largely. But we are now we then moved backwardly though to the era of massive voter inducement and vote buying and all that. So, but then as we march towards 2023, it's important that we rejig the electoral law to see where can be amended, what we can put into it to make the process more seamless, to make the process more meritorious, so that the outcomes of these elections are a true reflection of the people's wish. And I think that is what has just been done in the current instance under the Repeal and Enactment Amendment Bill 2021 that was just passed 3 days ago. That had two major highlights, among others. One being the fact that we can now have electronic transmission of results, and then the suggestion that political parties should now do direct primaries instead of
yes. Let me come to that.
Yes.
There are some views that is that action democratic? Does the National Assembly has the right to dictate to political parties how they must do their primaries?
People have asked this question actually since 3 days ago, and people are mixing the understanding of what they call governments and democracy. You see, no institution exists on its own arbitrarily, that there's no ceiling over you. The National Assembly is a composition of the representatives of the people. You, me, everywhere. We are all members of the constituent. And so when people gather in the National Assembly, that is the bastion of democracy. They have the legal rights to make laws as affect any part of Nigeria, any institution of Nigeria, including political parties. Political parties are subscribers to INEC as an agency of government. They exist by their terms, they operate by the terms of INEC. And even INEC itself is also a creation and is also answerable to National Assembly. So if the National Assembly in its wisdom think that in further enhancing our democracy, especially internal democracy. In political parties. Which is part of the bane of our democratic evolution, to the extent that political parties have compromised the merit in their system, and they just make all manner of charlatans and people who are answerable to certain governors emerge as candidates. And by the time you emerge via compromise, okay, and your emergence does not enjoy the totality of the people's support, even from a political party, then when you get to public office, what do? You only go to satisfy yourself, and the people put you there. And so one of the things that we need to do to enhance the political parties is to say, how do candidates even emerge? Okay. Only two ways: either by delegate election, which we call direct primaries, where certain people, take responsibility to select those who get to office. Yeah, sure. The second part is the direct primaries, whereby every single member of that party, exercises his or her right to choose who becomes the party candidate. And in the wisdom of the Nigerian National Assembly, it thought that, look, if we make the space more open, it brings what we call inclusion. It exterminates godfatherism and mediocrity, because why? Those who seek public office will even approach party members. You sell yourself, you display your antecedents and your capacity, and the whole gamut of the party, then go to vote. It is practically impossible for any single aspirant to then say, I want to bribe every party member. You are not going to achieve it. But
but you're likely to bribe all delegates.
You are the fact, by the time you are planning your
you know the number you are catering for.
You know the leaders, you know the first taker, and you know the number of delegates. So those are your targets. You don't even
have any business with some party members don't even know the candidate. What the candidates then must know are the delegates.
And so it's a closed system that does not bring inclusion and merit. So that is what the National Assembly is now trying to look like. If we can have, first off, a medley that, okay, if it's not direct, it can be indirect. But that, why don't we even go for direct primaries? And let the best man emerge all the time, with every party member having their say, as it is being practiced in other countries. You see the beauty of American democracy, where aspirants go around the process of becoming candidates, like as if it's a general election. You go from Ohio to Wisconsin to Pennsylvania, speaking to party mini conventions where the party members gather. You talk to them, you sell yourself. At the end of the day, they put together the vote. Okay, it's in a national convention, and then you now receive the nomination. So when you hear that somebody has received the nomination of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, you know that it is a product of a rigorous internal party process. But we don't have that here. All manner of people just find themselves as candidates. Because why? The process has been compromised. So I think what the National Assembly has done is to push forward. It's a proposal which will be thoroughly challenged by the status quo.
I know.
But they have tried to push forward what can help us rather than what will make us go backward.
Okay.
Okay, now I wanted to read out a statement from Mahmoud Yakud, as he's on the second time now, right now.
Yes.
So, he announced his commitments during the proposed changes to be made through the Electoral Act you mentioned and repeal. Now, according to him, in the build-up of the 2019 election, he said President Buhari refused accent to bills proposing election-related amendments to the Constitution 3 times, in March, September, and December. In your own view, why do you think, knowing full well that it's to the advantage of the country?
Well, you see, when leaders take decisions or refuse to take decisions, it is not just as we see it. It's a reflection of many undercurrents, political undercurrents, interests, whether present interests or future interests, or conflict of certain interests that are underpinning that decision. That if you make this decision, Mr. President, this doesn't pay us. If you don't take this decision, this does not pay. And don't forget, we were approaching an election. Mr. President was seeking a second term. So it was not going to be accepting laws, bills, that will have very strong impact on the election he was facing. So it was politically correct in their own thinking to say, Mr. President, please step down. all this accent. Let's go and run this election and get your second term. You can be thinking of that for the future. That was, let's say, I can put it as within the context of a selfish decision.
But the accent will still be needed.
But now,
definitely.
But now, the state is different.
Okay.
Okay, the stage is different.
And the body language is showing.
The body language is showing. If you look at it, those who even supported these new bills, amendment bill, are members of the APC. Okay, to the effect that electronic transmission of results is not to anybody's advantage. It is to all political parties' advantage. So that is a kind of amendment that can easily get the assent of the president. After all, who is afraid of having the true result from each polling unit being transmitted? Because the problem has always been not been the voting. We can almost say that if we vote in any polling unit, we can in 2, 3, 4 hours we usually hear the announcement of the result.
But the
problem is,
does the vote count? That has always been the question. People vote, no doubt. Now, just like you are saying, that has always been the challenge. The movement of the results.
That is where the problem starts. Does the vote count in the end? That's because if we know the total number of accredited voters per polling unit, they will announce results in that every polling booth. You will see the agents sign. And from that point, you can't even track the vote. It is moved manually with police, with all these people. They take it to local government collection center. They spend hours bringing some elaborate result sheets and start putting it with pencil. They will be raising, okay, it was not correct. They will do manual addition. They will finish that charade and now transport again to the state collection center and spend another almost 24 hours doing the same thing. By the end of the day, when results are being announced in the midnight of the third day, you begin to see figures that do not add up. And more often than not, the polling unit results are very difficult to alter at that point because they have been perfected. Result sheets have been changed. It is when they say in Yoruba, it is when you see the calabash that's lost in water that you can say it's my own because I have put mark on it. But if you signed a result sheet, another result sheet has been brought in, okay, signatures doctored. Perfectly. New stamps put on it. So the result is still valid. But when you have this new bimodal technology that the INEC has said that has brought now, that it accredits you, it takes your biometrics, so which means you can actually say that this is the number of people that were accredited at a polling unit. And that same device now transmits the manually imputed result that was announced to everybody at the polling booth and takes it to the central server. So the result can be missed. It may not be foolproof at its beginning because every system must have its teething problem, but it's a significant improvement. We can almost say that the result that will be declared at the end of the day is a reflection. If you look at the American election, I always like to watch that election. You begin to see people tallying votes. Even we, as we are sitting here, we'll be saying in Wisconsin, okay, Trump is leading by 240. We won our time because you are seeing it. We are tracking it. They know the number of votes here. It has been declared electronically. It's all over the internet. There's nothing anybody can do to it. You know where the swing votes are. You know if you have won. You know if you have lost. Until Trump tried to now desecrate the American ideal. So it's a reflection of just to enhance the process.
But let's look at the issue of electronic transmission of results. If you look at the body language of the politicians, okay, members of the National Assembly, so they say, who has the responsibility to look into it and say, okay, this is a good one. Listen, if you want to say that people believe they grudgingly passed the proposal because of the stance of Nigerians. They read the mind of Nigerians, and of course Nigerians want everything to be transparent. I mean, this you would think shouldn't have been things that should be debated for a long time. Who is afraid of electronic transition of results? What does that say of our politicians?
Unfortunately, when we elect people to go and represent us, and I always say this, that I don't even like to blame the executive much because we know they always do what they want to do. But I like to blame the National Assembly because you know why? You are the real representative of the people. we will send you there to go and protect our interests, make laws that affects our welfare. So when they get there and you see them not even struggling to do what is right, what we think is right, then it beggars imagination. Do you know why? These people get there and begin to deal. Begin to take monies either to accent what some other interest people want or not to accent what some other interest wants and not what their constituents want. That was what the Senate displayed. It was unfortunate that the Senate embarrassed itself. It was the House of Representatives that passed that law ab initio, if you recall.
Yeah.
There was no concurrence. But it took, just because one man in the Senate said that there's no data in his village, and therefore electoral transmission wasn't going to be possible. But his village just embarrassed him. When they came out on social media to say, look, when you send us money, how do we receive it? How do we get alert? Is not data not working here? And then there was strong petitions and representations again. Not until the Senate now decided to now bring for the committee that same bill, and they now concord with the House of Representatives on this matter, and we are here where we are today. And you see, the beauty of democracy is not because those we put there will always do what we want. The beauty of democracy is that the people's voice must count, even when we see our representatives trying to act ultra-biased. Are you getting it? That is democracy. We put people there for their interests. They are now doing things that is not in our own interest, and we can shout and talk, and they change. We are moving. We are moving forward. So I think this time around we have shown against the power of the people to be able to influence, our public office holders to do what is pro people. Because why? You are not elected to go and do what you want. That's where our leaders miss it. People get to office and they think that, yes, it's like a public company. No, you are a servant. In fact, that is when you are in the hot seat. You should be mindful of what every policy and program of government must be centered around how it helps the people to move forward in terms of their welfare and their security. Any other thing that a government is doing that is not tailored along these two parts, which is provided in the Constitution under Article 214, that government exists primarily for the enhancement of the people's welfare and their security. So if you are doing anything outside of these two, you are only embarking on a medley of misdirected activities and not what you are elected to go and do. So it is this mindset that our leaders must have, this servant messenger mindset. Not, yes, this is my own personal estate. Let me just do what I want and then give pittance to the people. That's why it is a wrong idea when people celebrate what governor did here and begin to launch and commission and do elaborate celebration of the governor of the president. They are not doing us any favor. I like to say it. What can you do? How can I employ you and they have to be celebrating you for doing your job? If you believe that the work is tedious, don't come to public office. In those other crimes, public office is serious work. Because why? It doesn't even enjoy the kind of lavish movements that we have here.
Governments are meant to pay salaries, so why celebrate them for paying
why
salaries?
Why celebrate?
Probably because
you will see people come out to say our governor has not owed salaries, and I say, so you should hope. He has paid this, he has done that. Do you know why we celebrate a few achievements in that direction? What we call achievements? Because of how the mentality of Nigerians have been desecrated over the years of non-performance mismanagement. So when you now see somebody is even doing what he has been constitutionally assigned to do,
begin to say in his magnanimity, he has decided to commission and to reconstruct.
You hear commissioners say, we spoke to Mr. Governor, and his magnanimity, he approved that the pension for over 6 months, for 6 months should be released to them. So this mindset needs to go off. It needs to go off. And this starts by how do people get to public office. So all these reforms are at the heart of cleaning that process, cleaning the audience table. Because every nation gets the leadership it deserves.
Okay, I want to pick up from that standpoint now. According to Pew Research Center,
yes,
they conducted a research last year from the past election. Now we're looking at 2023 in view. It is discovered that 39% of Nigerians were satisfied with their democracy at the moment. 72% said most politicians were corrupt. And 57% said no matter who wins, their things do not change much. How do you respond to this fact? How true is it?
It's largely true. You know, there's this principle of dispersed political, I've forgotten that principle now, that talks about the fact that because human need is insatiable, people want things better. You know,
as far as it satisfies their personal needs.
As far as it satisfies their personal needs. And when governments come in place, you are trying hard to satisfy the people. You are putting in place policies, programs, okay, that is meant to, you know, improve their lives, you know, put disposable income in their pockets, bring down their commitment to tax, and, you know, provide human capital development.
Reduce the cost of living.
Reduce the cost of living, and all of those things. It's a big compendium of efforts that the government has to put in place. And so you really have to be on your feet as a government to even be able to meet all these needs and satisfy the people in the face of dwindling resources, okay, and expanding need. You know, resources are dwindling worldwide. Needs are increasing. So how do you fix the balance? The balance is high-level management of resources and critical thinking, which most of our leaders don't have. They are just into rent seeking, collect money from Abuja every 28 days, and get to office and sprinkle a bit into pension, you know, salaries, and then look for few projects and then, and you know, critical thinking is not done, and a lot of it are mismanaged. So under that process, what percentage of people do you think will really be touched? Local governments are in comatose all over the country. That tier of government has been killed. So you are leaving things at the hands of the state government. 30%, almost 45% of the resources of the capital receipt of states are looted. The remaining, how does it meet the rural people? How does it stop rural urban migration? Because to stop all this in the mouth, it's about you putting critical infrastructure at the lower levels that makes them comfortable enough to say they want to be seeking and putting pressure in the urban centers. So you don't do that. The access roads that links market to villages, you don't do it. You're not creating the market for produce. Okay? You're not even embarking on very high-level economic projects that can even bring income. How many states are embarking on income-generating projects? They are not much. Are you getting it? So, what is even the state of healthcare in most of these our states? What is the quality of education? So, people cannot be satisfied. And Nigerians have enjoyed mismanagement, endured for too long. So that's why there's this cynicism between the people and government. People don't trust government in Nigeria, no matter how we try.
As we go, definitely, yeah, I want to say that 2023 will be interesting.
Yes.
Especially when you look at those two issues, the way the candidates emerge, and of course, electronic transmission of the result. It's going to be interesting to see how we go about it, how we see how it goes in 2023. Yes.
Well, the first thing is we pray Mr. President quickly gives assent to the bill so that we are sure that that is there, and then we are hoping that the political parties now, you know, they find the big ones because Nigeria's trust is limited. You are either here or there. And so for the two big parties, we are hoping that this time around they get it right in terms of the quality of people they bring forward. Nigeria is going backward.
They should lead others by example.
Example, and everything rises and falls on leadership, according to John C. Maxwell. If leadership is wrong, policy will be wrong.
Definitely.
Economic will be wrong. People will suffer just because somebody's not thinking right. So and on the final note, I also want to talk to the people.
Yeah.
You see, it's one thing for charlatans to produce themselves. It's one thing for political parties to mismanage the process and compromise it to bring malleable and pliable candidates out. It's another thing for the people, for them to now reject all these petty inducements that make them mortgage 4 years on the altar of 2,000, 3,000, fastly pass, oil, and all those things. It's high time for Nigerians to begin to understand that there's a connectivity between who is in office and their own welfare.
My own thinking is even that if you don't get it in 4 years, did you die? So what change has that brought to your life if you just get it because an election is coming? So why don't you just endure and put the right people
The task is now for non-government organizations, okay, the civil society, and all men of goodwill, and even these smaller political parties, to begin to sell that narrative to the Nigerian public on the need for voter rationality, for voters to be more educated and enlightened. I understand that there's value in what we call delayed gratification in favor of more enduring democratic dividends. Okay, it is better for me to reject 2,000, 3,000 naira slippers, pop and enjoy people who come to the office and do politics, social infrastructure that will help us.
Future, yeah. Thank you very much. And of course, we've been talking about electoral reforms, a possible impact on 2023. And we've been having as our guest Bolaji Adeniji, who is a writer, policy strategist, and public affairs pundit. I'm sure you must have enjoyed him. Thank you so much for having time to come.
It's a pleasure.
Of course, we are just getting started as far as the discussion segment is concerned. We'll take this break. We'll be back.